5 language patterns aimed at being able to defend yourself into any kind of conversation or against any kind of individual who doesn't want your best. We are going to use the magical linguistics model freshly elaborated to explain how this works. The first language pattern is I don't recognize the authority you pretend having by saying this. Basically, if you don't clearly understand by which filter your interlocutor is seeing and hearing this conversation, you may debate against a wall or just use statements and declarations that will not be listened to anyway, because the other person is just not on the same page. We can refer to this as the meta frame right here, where you study how is this person viewing that conversation. Do they presuppose they are teaching me something? Do they presuppose they have some superior knowledge or power over me? In which case, do I agree with that? If it is in the justice system, okay, you can definitely agree with that. But if it is in a daily conversation with somebody who is not clearly from the social system around you any kind of superior authority, then why do they pretend to have the right to talk to you like a piece of garbage? Why do they pretend they have the right to do so? Language pattern number 2, by virtue of what should anyone listen to you? The word anyone right here is very important, because if somebody is attacking you really specifically on very specific things, you did wrong, you did that, at some point you can say, even without me, even without taking me into consideration, despite the faults I may have made, why should anyone listen to you? By virtue of what is appealing to the similar meta frame as the last language pattern, but here we are targeting at a more concrete example. By which superior virtue, like are you calling out to religion? Are you calling out to the position you have in society? Is it just because you have more money or more education or more whatever than me? By virtue of what should anyone consider you somebody to listen to? Because maybe the person who you are interacting with is just toxic, and you may not always have to justify yourself. Sometimes you can just call them out on their bullshit and say, thank you, I'm not interested in listening to anything you say, goodbye. That is appealing, according to that model, to the alternative map. On their value system, what do they place as a superior moral value, moral or anything of a superior value, compared in context of the conversation at hand? If the conversation is about what you should do about your life because you should do this, by virtue of what do they pretend they have authority over you? Like, why do they pretend they can dictate to you what is good and what is bad in your own life, which is not theirs, it is yours? Language pattern number 3, how would you feel if someone said that to you directly? That is very shocking. That is almost a pattern interrupt for some people. When you use the exact words sometimes they used and you pull it back, you jeer it back at themselves. If you use the exact terminology they used against you and you ask them out of the blue, what if someone said that to you specifically? How would you react? And how do you think I'm going to react right now? Because that is a very mean comment you just told me right now. If me or anybody else had said that to you, how do you think you would have reacted? That is what I call in this model the alternative views. You are pulling back the view they have on themselves. They are projecting something, especially if somebody who is angry, who is upset at you. In many cases, sometimes, okay, you did something wrong, but in many cases, they are just projecting their own fears, their own insecurities on you, and whether it is you or anybody else, they don't care, they just want something to grab and to diverse all their anger onto. In that case, that phrase can act as a massive pattern interrupt. It might be said on such a tone that you even make them feel a bit guilty about it. Like, do you even realize how you are talking to me right now? Number 4, thinking or speaking like this will only lead to more conflicts and drama. That is pointing out to the future outcome that will happen, that may eventually happen later in the conversation. Appealing to any kind of future outcome is a great conversational tactic to de-escalate a conflict. Whenever the person who is stuck in the moment and their negative feelings are really stuck right now and they are angry about something that you're talking about right here, putting their back toward the future is at the very least Maybe you won't win the argument right away just with that, but at the very least it will de-escalate the potential emotional baggage that could be linked with the conversation at hand. Putting their attention to a future outcome like this helps to paint in their head the possibility that the conversation is going to end up really bad, not only for you, but also for them. And some people who are trapped into emotional garbage, they may not even be conscious anymore that their current behavior is going to cause massive bad consequences later down the road. By pointing that out, you can make them stop and reflect on what they are currently doing. Another version of that might be, can you just tell me what do you think will happen by you talking to me like this? What do you think is going to happen? Or if you talk like this to anyone else, what do you think will happen? In your opinion. And that may put a shock in the conversation, placing a blank that may open the space in their brain to listen to you finally more carefully and to let you express yourself in turn, in case they haven't really been letting you express yourself so far. Number 5, how the hell, or just how, is that relevant for the conversation we are having right now? Anything they said that was maybe well thought out, but completely irrelevant for the current debate. Or maybe you can sense they are just trying to pull your attention away from the real tangible core source of what is problematic right now, what is the source of conflict, and they are trying to lose you into endless, smaller micro debates to exhaust you mentally maybe. But you know, what they're talking about right now is just completely irrelevant for the main problem here. So it is calling out to their intent, their original intent. Why do you say that? Why? What is your intention in telling me that I am full of shit, that I don't know what I'm talking about? What specifically are you trying to get by saying this to me? Is it just because you're angry? In that case, are you sure you're angry at me specifically? Are you sure there is not anybody else who pissed you off today and you are just using that anger to project on me, whereas I am not even the one who caused that in any way? Or if it is maybe something more personal, maybe you have a beef with me and you have a problem to just express yourself, so you just give mean comments like passive-aggressive instead of just saying clearly what you want to say. Whatever is the origin, whatever is the intent behind that, can you just clarify? And people who are great at bullshit will just never admit that out loud. If they really have a beef with you, they may completely turn around it again and again. I even have one example of that, maybe 8 years ago. There was a party I had launched for my birthday. A girl I had met came to that party, and me and that girl ended up together at the end of the night. And a friend of mine, somebody I used to consider like a friend, ended up being in a relationship with her, that specific girl. They ended up a boyfriend-girlfriend a few days or weeks later. And then he put a whole bag of shit on me for, if you could sense we were so good together, why did you sleep with her during that party, during that night? And it was confusing, like, well, first of all, I didn't force her in any way. I think she would have talked about it if I had forced her. And why should I be at fault? Like, it was really weird for me. And when I sensed that guy was getting really irrational and emotional against me, one day I just called him on the phone because I was having trouble to process the hate I could sense from him, but he had never clearly expressed what was the big issue I just enumerated. And I called him on the phone and I said, listen, I like you, I just sense something is wrong between you and me right now. If I said anything you didn't like, or if I did anything that caused any harm, I apologize. So I really took my pant off right the first one. I apologize even without knowing clearly yet what might have not happened. I said, I apologize. Is there anything wrong? And he, even despite that fucking statement of, yes, I admit I may have done bad things, if I ever did, he still could not say it clearly. He still could not say, yeah, I took it bad that you slept with the girl I ended up in a relationship with, that I am right now in love with, whereas it was clear that during that party we were good together. And some people are just like that. Even when you give them the opportunity, people who are great at bullshit, they will just never tell the truth anyway. That person in the end was out of my life. Even all the other friends in that group who knew both of us, all turned against him because his behavior was completely stupid at this point. So some people like this, you may just want to get rid of them, at least distance yourself from them. Maybe you can't escape completely situations around them, but at least you can distance yourself from toxic people. And language is, in my opinion, one of the best tools to start distancing yourself. First of all, in your own thoughts, can you discuss with yourself the reasons why this relationship is important or not, and how can you take more time for yourself, more attention, more appreciation for who you are, before giving too much credit for anybody else who might not want your best interest. If you want to further develop your skills and learn much more about conversational techniques like those, you have the document down below called The 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth. It is free, it can be downloaded right now if you want, and you will learn tons of techniques to defend yourself verbally and also to help others elevate themselves if there is anything wrong in their lives. You can download this right away. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video.